Hello and welcome to Code Geeks. We are Gizmore and X from WeChatNet and show you how to code in PHP in the first place, but later we might discuss other languages or learn them as well. Today is episode 6 and we will talk about functions, variables, primitive variables, arrays, short, what is an object, what are variable scopes, what are function parameters, and maybe we also talk a bit about loops. So I want you to create a new file in your lessons, maybe. Meanwhile, we think that you have set up Eclipse that you can do the same experiments with your Eclipse as well, just like we do. Okay, so maybe let's first start with variables. Equals 4. So can you explain the line, what is happening?
So we just created a new container or variable. We
Yes.
assign to it the value 4.
Yes. And now the type of this variable is an integer because it's a whole number. It's so-called integer, and computers only work with integers in binary, but they just do work with integer. Everything is just a number in computers, you know? So let's manipulate the variable. We write $a equals $a plus 1. 1. Yeah. So maybe you explain what is happening in line 3.
So now we added 1 to the integer 4. So this will be 5.
Yes. What's really happening is it assigns a new expression. The expression is a plus 1, and it has to calculate the expression first. So it loads the value of a, it's 4, adds the 1, it's 5, then assigns it to a again. That's what's happening under the hood, what really happens to your code. In practice, it's way more complex what happens in PHP, but it's a high-level language. You do not have to worry about implementation details. You just write high-level code, which is easy to read, and it turns into many, many instructions in the real world. So your CPU is really doing some work now, and in PHP it's just +1, but under the hood, there are quite a few instructions happening in your CPU. Okay, so we have a basic understanding what a variable is. Now let's introduce another type of variable. The integer is a primitive type. It's just a whole number. It's of the type net integer. Now, then there are other primitive types like integer, for example, Boolean values. Now maybe do $a equals true. Now this is another type of variable, a Boolean value. Hashtag for comment. This is a Boolean value. There are 2 Boolean values, true and false. And in the C programming language, true is just 1 and false is just 0 under the hood in C. In PHP, the Boolean is a real type and there is either true or false. Well, a Boolean cannot be null also. Boolean has to be true or false. We will come to this more later. Now another primitive type, $a equals 3.14. Now this is a float. Let's call it float. It's a decimal, it's a floating point value. There is a special part in your CPU, the FPU, which is especially for floating point, and it's decimal values, you know, with a point 3.15 or 14 is around pi. That's a decimal value. That's also a primitive type, float, decimal. We can also work with this. It's a bit slower as integers, but there's a special FPU in your CPU, so it's fast again. Do you want to learn more about floats?
Yes, please. And I'm more interested as well if you give me a summary about the more instructions that going on the CPU in a brief way, if that's possible.
Yeah, we will We will discuss this when we do operating systems, maybe. For float, you can add a comment in line 5, add more comments. Now you do an S, then a few E's for exponent, and a few M's for mantissa. Now, if you imagine the bit sequence, if you imagine this is binary, you have one bit for the sign, negative or positive. Then you have a few bits for the exponent, for the E. This is the power of this value, where is the decimal point? You can shift the decimal point by the left or right. And then you have the M for mantissa bits. And this is the 314. This is the number, and the exponent shifts the comma, you know? And internally, this is how CPU or FPU handles floating point values. You have a sign bit, exponent bits, and mantissa bits. And internally, it works this way for floating point or decimal values internally. Okay. Now, another very important primitive data type is the string. $A equals, then you need quotes, and then you put some text. Yeah. Now, leave it to you, imagine what you write. This is already a string. But maybe write X is cool. Semicolon. So, and internally, a string is just a bunch of bytes. And via the ASCII table, you convert these bytes, which are just numbers again, just integers. No, a string is just integers. But the integers mean something if you look through them through the ASCII table, you know? In theory, the X, you can maybe look at the ASCII table again. Now we look up the uppercase X. It's 88, decimal 88. So you go to the code again. So this string X is cool is it is just a bunch of numbers. The 88, then a 32, then the number for the lowercase I, then the number for the lowercase s, then the 32 again for space. No, and internally it's just these numbers, and only by looking through the ASCII table, you know, oh, this is a letter. The computer has to know, oh, this is a string, and a string, I print letters via the ASCII table. You know what I mean?
Yes, and is it on in CPU? It's on in binary?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just numbers, and the binary code for 88 represents the X, and so on. And this is a string, and the string is just an array of numbers. And this leads us to the next type. A equals array, exactly. Yeah, it's the same as if you write arrays. So this way you can create an array, and an array is just a container for many elements, a container for elements. You know, a string is just an array of numbers, and an array is always just an array of numbers, finally. But an array is in container, multiple numbers. You know, you can put multiple numbers in an array. Like you can say next line, yeah, write container. Then maybe next line, $A equals array, and then maybe 1 and 2, 1, 2. Now you have an array of two numbers. The first number is 1, the second number is 2. And want to read this, line 9 new, echo, $, A, and the first element, array brackets 0. Inside the brackets, yes. Guess what this would print?
The 1.
Yeah, exactly. Because you index arrays from 0 to open end, and the nulls, the first element is element null, is the 1 here in this example, yes. And if you put echo $a in, run it, of course. Yeah. Now do echo $a1, the second element, please. Yeah. Now this should print 2, I guess. Yeah, and now it does do the third element. It's a 2 then. It's a 2. Okay. Exactly. Now we have the third element, 0, 1, 2. The third element is undefined. Undefined array key 2. The array does not contain a value, a third element, you know? You get a warning, and PHP will throw a warning, and it will result in null. PHP will return null. And a warning, and emit a warning. Now, well, the arrays in PHP are quite powerful. It's not only an array. This is a traditional array. You know it from the C language, maybe. This is a traditional array. But in PHP, you can also do like this, $a equals. An array, and put in the array a string like x. Now this will be our key. X will be our key, and write equals greater than. It's like an arrow, equals greater than behind the string, after the string, behind. 4. Now line 11 new echo, line 11 new echo, in brackets 0. What do you think happens? Semicolon missing. What do you think will the output be?
Now we have the key 4 maybe.
Nope. Run it. Because PHP arrays are dictionaries, a key value store. And if you use keys of 0, 1, 2, 3, it will use a faster implementation for real arrays. And if you give them keys like X or strings as keys, it behaves like a dictionary. And now try to output the 4 of the A. How would you do this? Nope. Almost. Run it. Perfect.
Could you please explain more what is the dictionary and what is key and this sign, what is it?
So a dictionary is a term from programming. A dictionary is just a key value store. Now we have the key X with the value 4. Maybe we do line 11 new. $a, $a in brackets X equals. No. Yeah, exactly. You need the string quotes, and this the string x. We need $a in brackets the string x. I want to change the x value, you know. Delete, yeah, perfect. Equals 5. Or maybe plus plus, semicolon. What do you think will the output be?
If the x is 4, then it will be 5.
Run it. And now let's do line 12 new. $a, $a array brackets, string y, y, Jesus, equals 6. After the brackets. And line 13 maybe. Print underscore r, print underscore r. $a. It just prints, please run it. It's like var dump, it's similar to var dump. You understand the output? Yes.
Okay, so now we just print the value of a.
And a is an array with the elements x, which is a 5, and y, which is a 6. It just prints the whole array then. Okay, now let's do line 13 new. $a, array brackets, leave them empty, equals 7. So what do you think is the array now? Maybe run it. I'm unsure myself. I think it should be
Appending? No. Or
it
it will
should
override.
append a key of 0, I think. It will be 0 equals 7. Please run it. Yeah, 0 equals 7. Because you have not specified any key, it will take the next free key from auto generation, which is a 0, but it puts it to the end. In real, you have a dictionary now with a string key 0, you know? It's a bit quirky. PHP arrays are good. They are fun to work with. They are complex and powerful and cool. You will get used to it sooner or later.
Okay.
I think that's enough for arrays. Do you have more questions about arrays?
Just a bit more explanation about the last part, and maybe like a very simple use case. Why should I use it? And then again, what's the key value and what happened here exactly?
Okay, a use case. Well, maybe let's start with a function.
Okay.
We will now create one of our first functions. Line 16 new, please. Function. We name it array sum. And as parameter, we have an array. You can write array literally. Yeah, and also the type is array literally. Yeah, space. So, and we return an integer. And line 19 new. We call the function now. We will implement it later. We call it with an array. Maybe leave $array or make, yeah, perfect. We call it with 1, 2, 3 maybe. And yes, and I wanted to return the sum of this now. So our function should return 10 if we implement it. And the implementation is we will loop over the array and just sum the numbers into a result and return the result. So we create a variable named result. Now, We can do a for loop now, but I want you to show a for each loop first. It's like a for loop, it's for each. Then round brackets, exactly, dollar array s, for each array s, dollar key, then the array arrow again equals larger than the arrow, like in line 10. In line 10 you have an arrow, and the equal sign too. Let us call this the arrow. We call it the arrow, okay?
Okay. What is it? Is it assigning value or?
Yeah, and now dollar value. And then you can do the curly braces already. So now what happens here? This is the for loop. It's like a for loop. It goes through the whole array where you have variables in key and value. You know, it loops 4 times now, and maybe do echo dollar key semicolon, then echo next line, echo a string, a colon and a space. Yeah. And now next line echo value. And now next line echo as a string, also a string, echo a string, and we echo \n. This is new line. This is like hex 10, you know. You could also echo x0a. And now line 26, we return result. And you can now run it. And the print R as well. Okay, fine. You understand this?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yes.
So this is a for each loop. You please explain me line 18 to 23.
So here for each array as key equal value. So.
No, 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 no. Um, it goes for each array. It loops
Mm-hmm.
it loops over the array, and you will have for each step, for each for each
Mm-hmm.
step, you will have the current key and value in the variable's key value. You can maybe change line 18, change key to k, $k. So you don't need to type key all the time. You can just type k. And for value, maybe just the v. And now when I say the same stuff again, it loops through the whole array. And for every iteration step, you have the key in k and the value in v. Makes more sense now?
Okay. So let's say in the first iteration, it will take 0
Yes,
as a key and 1 as a value,
exactly. And in line 19, we echo the key, which is
which is
0.
0.
Then we echo a colon in the space for readability.
Okay.
Then we echo the value, and then we echo an enter new line for readability.
Good.
So
And
now,
is this only for explanation, or we can do like
yes, okay.
append this to the
Yeah,
key? No?
yeah, yes. Please delete the 4 lines and do echo, then double quotes, curly braces. You don't need them. $k, $k. inside the string $k, colon, space, $fee, \n. It's the same. Makes sense. Now it's not quite the same. There's an extra space now at the end. Now it's the same as before.
Yes, clear.
Makes sense. Okay. Now let's implement the function array sum. What do you need to do now in line 20 maybe? What do you need to do now to make the function output 10? Make the result return the right result, please, for array sum. You know, sum all the values.
Yes. So we need to add the value. We don't need the key here, maybe. So
Correct.
value, we will assign the value. So value plus, we will take value. That's interesting.
If you look at line 3 now, it's almost the same as line 3.
But we should create a new variable, correct?
We have result. I would use result.
Okay. We already have one correct. Result equal.
What arithmetic exactly? I did say nothing.
Yeah. Echo result.
Line 25 now, please. Now do line 25 $a equals array sum, the line below. You can delete. And now, yeah, perfect. Just a bit ugly. The enter is not necessary. Yeah. And now what do we do with A? What do we want to do with A?
Echo A.
Yeah. And you could also just write echo array sum, but this is how variables work. And you know the variable array in line 16. In line 16, the variable named array. This is just a normal variable. You call those function parameters, but it's just a normal variable. And the variable array in line 16 is only visible inside the function. So outside of the function, there is no variable array. The program starts in line 2. It creates a variable a, assign value 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In line 16, it defines a function. And I'm not sure if you can write array sum above the function, but I think you can. I think the preprocessor goes to the file first, assigns all function names, and then starts to reparse again somehow. It goes too deep now. Okay. Any questions so far?
Now it's clear.
Now it's clear. It's starting to make sense?
Yes.
Great. Okay.